All right, what's up, guys? Floetic back again for another in-home edition of Dice Lemons with a very special guest, DJ Kutcorners. How you doing, my man?
I'm real good, man. How are you?
I thought you were at home, but it seems like you're outside in the north, up north.
Yeah, we the North, we're trying out some different things.
I like it, man.
Quarantine.
How's before we get too deep? How are you doing with the quarantine? Like, how are you holding up? Everything good? Mental health, physical? How are you doing?
Yeah, man. Look, I'm really lucky. I'm in a really privileged and blessed kind of situation. I still got my job. I'm living with my girl and my dog. I can go for a run around the street, stay healthy, learning some new recipes.
Nice.
But yeah, overall things are somewhat normal considering the times.
Yeah. Now, with what's going on, actually, you know what? I'm gonna save that question. Let's start with who you are. How did you get the name Kutcorners?
It's not really that good a story, to be honest. It's just I think when I was younger, I was with I was making music with a guy called Illa Brown, who's was an MC, and we used to smoke a little bit of the now illegal marijuana at that time. Illegal, sorry. Yeah, there was just like this rolling paper packet that everyone used to use, zigzags, and they had cut corners on. I was like, oh, this is perfect. That's me.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, I just jacked that. It's really not that complicated.
Was that from Canada or back home?
Oh, it was Canada. Yeah, I moved to Canada when I was 18, and then moved to BC when I was 19. So, yeah.
Well, let's start with that. Like, you're from New Zealand, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did your love for music start back in New Zealand? Like, were you collecting records and doing stuff back then, or was it more of when you transitioned over to Canada?
It was like from childhood. My dad's a radio DJ. He was like regular morning radio host guy in New Zealand, and so he was always getting promos and we had a piano. My grandmother was a piano player and a drummer, so it's musical family for sure. Mm-hmm. My mom's into music, and she's from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and so she's Canadian. My dad's a New Zealander, so I had like these two different kind of cultures, but very similar, of course, and just a lot of appreciation for music. So yeah, I played music as a kid, like from 5, and then when I came to Canada, it was largely based off the fact that I wanted to pursue more of a career and have more opportunities in Canada. And a trip, I think when I was like 15, I went to Toronto, and it was like Caravana Festival was happening at that time, and I was only going through Toronto to go to see my family, and it was really crazy because I was just like, what is happening? Like, this is amazing, this music and this culture. And it was what I wanted at that time in my life. I needed that. And I instantly was like, okay, this is it. I'm out. New Zealand is cool, but I want to be here. And I knew that I could be there because of my mom. So I'm really lucky.
That's amazing. So you came over with your mom?
No, I just came over by myself, but because my mother had, my dad's an only child, like, single mom, all that, and because of that, if anything was going to happen with my family, they wanted me to have my Canadian citizenship, so I could, to be with my family over here. So I've always had Canadian, citizenship. So I'm fully exploiting that opportunity as
yeah, of course. That's amazing. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So for younger guys, younger DJs that are wondering kind of what to do, because sometimes I get questions from people like, what did you have to do to get to where you are, or what steps did you take? So you actually moved across the world as kind of a big stepping stone for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at the time, before I left New Zealand, I actually went to school for jazz in New Zealand, and it was all part of this kind of master plan. Like I was gonna do music. There was no, like, I feel for my parents about that. Like, I was so headstrong, but they just were like, okay, well, get some education and save money. And I saved money and I played in bands. And then when I came to Canada, I knew that I wanted to go to Montreal. At the time, that was where Ninja Tune had the headquarters. A-Track was from Montreal. Kid Koala was from Montreal. I'm a little older, so that was the time. Yeah. And I knew that there was like a scene in Montreal. So I moved to Montreal, foolishly didn't speak a word of, Francais.
Yeah.
And that was a bad decision, but I ended up here in Vancouver, and I'm really, really happy about that because I think I struck Vancouver at just the right time. Like Vancouver's has grown so much in
Yeah.
the 20 years I've been here
Hmm.
that I think it would have been totally cost prohibitive for me to have just pulled up and tried to do what I did now. I mean, the rent then, I was like, $400 a month rent, in the
Yeah.
West
Yeah.
End. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, I was living with like 3 other people, but
Yeah.
it was
Even
affordable.
now, if you have 3 people, you're not paying that.
Yeah, exactly. And it was okay. And also in saying that, even Vancouver at that time, there was like a little bubbling scene. Had the Rascals, shout out Chemo and those dudes, and the Swollen Members, Battle Axe,
Mhm.
um, and like there was a vibe, in Vancouver that things could happen, but it wasn't too like closed off. I mean, I
Mhm.
was able to get gigs and get ahead. I think that's kind of one of the cool things about Vancouver. It's actually pretty like receptive to new people coming through. It's a transient kind of city.
That's one thing that, like, speaking with my peers, we've kind of noticed as well. Like, even people from, Toronto or LA or whatnot, it's like in Vancouver, we kind of get coined as no fun city or whatnot for, obvious reasons. But I
Yeah,
feel like Vancouver is it's a leader in terms of, like you said, accepting new people and kind of being a sponge to just different things and different, cultures and whatnot, right? In terms of the music community. Um,
yeah.
so like from New Zealand, you hit up, Toronto, Montreal, then you come here. How does that happen? Like, how does that transition fully happen from the East to staying in Vancouver?
Well, so when I was in Montreal, I got robbed. I was a real naive, kid, and growing up in New Zealand, I'll be honest with you, New Zealand's a bit of a sheltered place.
Hmm.
We don't have a lot of crime, and there's not as much kind of. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just I could say that now, but maybe it's just a rite of passage. I needed to kind of learn some street shit,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just was way too nice to people, and I just befriended the wrong person, the call center I work with, and he just like he was like, oh, I got in a fight, I need to stay somewhere. I was like, okay, you can stay my place, and he's like, and then he quickly figured out how to my PIN number on my card and just
Oh
like clean me
wow.
up. Um,
Holy crap.
yeah, so I got really bummed out and depressed, and I ended up just going back to New Zealand for a little bit
Hmm.
to save money and then come back. But on the way back from Montreal, I went through Vancouver, and I was like, this is the spot, man, and there was like skateboarding is another really big passion. Like I just like skateboarding and skateboard culture, and at that time it was like Slam City Jam was happening, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh man, this is the spot for sure. So let me come back here and try it out because I can speak English. I was going to take a long time to figure out how to speak French at that point,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just like, okay, this will be a little easier. It was a bit warmer. It was a bit more like similar to my kind of climate and what I was used to. So
Hmm.
it just made sense.
So how old were you when that happened? Were you still 19 or was that like a little
Yeah, it
couple
was just
years after?
after. So yeah, just after, just before my 20th birthday, I moved right back over. So still
Like
19. Yeah.
mentally, how do you prepare to move across the world? So I moved to Calgary for a couple years, and that was like, oh my God, I'm leaving, I'm leaving home. But you did 10 times what I did. So like, how do you mentally prepare for that?
I think at that age though, right when you're like so like I hadn't even really moved out of home, so it was all a big total challenge.
Hmm.
Um, I only yeah I had everything was going to be new regardless, and I just yeah it was all a learning experience. I think I was up for that challenge though. I was quite a resourceful kid. I just worked whatever job I needed to work and
Hmm.
smoked a bit of pot and saved enough money to buy records and went skateboarding. My requirements were very simple. I mean,
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about that time.
yeah.
Didn't need a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so you get to Vancouver. How, like the first time I heard of you, you guys used to play, like your crew, the freshest.
Mm.
You guys used to play tons of parties in the city, and myself and Albert used to look up to you guys, like Seco, Marvel, Rico. You guys are dope. So like, how do you go from? I'm just doing a little timeline here: New Zealand, Montreal, Vancouver, and we're gonna jump ahead. How do you get linked up with Marvel and the crew?
So, yeah, I guess starting out I used to buy all my records from Beat Street Records, and so I just hang out at Beat Street.
Mhm.
And I think through that process, I met a dude called Wilson Hart. And oh yeah, okay. So my girlfriend at the time, she went to UBC, and I used to go and hang out just with her at UBC. And they had this common area at UBC. I never went to UBC. I just hung out
Yeah,
at
just they're
UBC.
hanging out.
And they were like, they had this little bar there. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was like a small bar, and there was some other people that were interested in DJing, and they just started DJing in this bar. One of the DJs is actually continued on. His name's Kenya, DJ Kenya. Kenny.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
And Kenny was playing drum and bass, and I was like, those guys were like the drum and bass guys, and I was the hip hop guy. I was like so hip hop, really.
Super hip hop.
Yeah, blinders on.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was cool though, that they respected what I did, and vice versa. And we just played for free at this party every Friday. And then I ended up playing. Wilson saw that people would be kind of coming, and we played house parties, and then he booked me at a club, and then I just ended up playing in clubs and doing quite well. I never actually, I'll be honest with you, man, I never really went with the intention of being like a club DJ. I was always wanted to be a producer, and I wanted to DJ with the productions. I never really had I'll be honest, again, I'll be really honest. I never really liked clubs. Like to this day, it's like, I get why people go to a club, and I go to a club and I can have fun, but it's the music that's the only reason why I'm there. I don't really drink that much. I like the social aspect of it, but it's the music that makes me go there. But yeah, when I was DJing at these clubs, people would like what I did, so I just kept playing. And then we met through playing basketball. Oh, sorry, hold on. Mike is kind of like a very important person in this whole situation, because Marvel is from Surrey, and I was making beats for this guy Colin. You know Colin, aka Graphic.
Graphic.
Yeah. I was making beats for Colin. We were kind of in this crew, and we were making music together, and that was like my thing, was making beats for these guys to make music. And Marvel was also affiliated as one of the DJs, and we just got on, and just kind of we just started hanging out. Like it was just like a real easy thing.
Super organic is what, like.
Yeah, just total friendship shit.
Cool.
And then through him, we started playing basketball, and then I knew Ivan. Sorry, So I knew Seko independently of Marvel. I knew Ivan because the guy who taught me how to DJ, or my kind of mentor when I came to Vancouver, was this guy called Jabriath. And Jabriath knew Ivan and Seko from East Van, kind of like school. And so, yeah, Ivan, Mike, and I knew each other, and then we all played basketball and met Rico through playing basketball, and Beat Street Records also. So kind of there's this like little mix of Beat Street basketball music and then playing out, and then we just, hey, we all like the same shit. So
yeah. So okay, so because I didn't even know that. I had no idea that's how it went down. So it was you, Marvel, and then it just kind of stemmed from there, essentially.
Yeah, I think we all just recognized, we all cared about very similar things aesthetically. Like we wanted Jordans, sneakers, and we liked this kind of hip hop. It was very New York oriented hip hop at the time. We were really into this kind of stuff. And then every time there would be kind of a shift or cultural change, as it does happen, we were all looking for those new things. And there was this really important actual forum that Rico put us all onto called the Holler Board.
Okay.
And the Holler Board was a forum on from like a Philadelphia guy called Low Budget, and Low Budget and Diplo were Holotronics. And this forum just had all these people on it. All the Rub guys were on it. U-Turn was on it. Mike 2600 came most. There was tons of people. Data from Houston. It was like a real DJs kind of forum, and everyone was sending Z-Share links and MediaFire stuff. It was like crazy. And that was like the birth of that blog era, and that's where we were really bonded over that stuff.
That's amazing, man. That's a cool story.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
So like from that, do you remember your first, like, okay, becoming friends with Marvel and branching out with Rico and Seko? How do you guys go from being friends to DJ and say your first party? Like, how does that how does that transition happen?
Okay, so we played Shine. That was like kind of my night that I had on Fridays called Get Some, and that was with me and Paul Devereaux, who's now like mad decent
Yeah.
head honcho.
Yeah.
So we had that night. That was called Get Some at Shine, and that was dope. And then Tokyo was on the same night. Tokyo bar, I can't remember what it was called, but that was another night that Headley and Rico and Marvel and Seko would all play at periodically. And Tokyo bar shut down, and there's actually quite a contentious, it was quite a tense time there because yeah, I mean, our Friday night Shine was always good. Shine was a spot back in the day, and then when Tokyo shut down, they were like, oh, we're just going to go there, and I was like, yeah, I was all for it, but there was some tension between, like, I mean, that was my night, and then they came in, and I was like, yeah, of course, those are the homies come in, but then Knievel kind of shysted me out, which was super choked about. To this day, I'm still salty about it.
Of course.
But you know, whatever. We were all young, and it was you know, different politics at the time. And I think through that, like Rico, Mike, and Ivan and I all realized that we needed to have our own thing and establish that. I'd also had a night called Real at Lucy Mae Brown, which was also a really popular night on Wednesdays. And I'd also kind of wanted to get out of that and shift the focus to like more of a different group of friends. And I had, you know, it was when you do nights and they're successful, when you start out with all the good intentions, it's fine. But when things become successful, and it's the same in every story, it's like people feel like certain ownership over certain things, and it's really hard to navigate those you know, those egos, those feelings of entitlement, and you know, my whole position on that is just like, well, if I've helped build something, I feel like I should reap the rewards.
Of course.
And other people had different opinions, and so I wasn't really about to like fight about it. I was like, well, I'll just leave. I'll make my point by leaving and starting our own thing. And I think a lot of us all felt that it would be better for us to take ownership of that whole thing that we wanted to do. So we started different parties and different nights, and one of them ended up, you know, being what is Good Life Sundays to this day. It's like, I don't know, 12 years old or something. So
that's crazy, man.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. That's amazing. For those that don't know, I mean, Good Life is a staple in the city, man. Every Sunday, you have the reggae room, you got the hip hop room, and your crew just still holding it down, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's a real testament, in my opinion, to kind of being like, well, yeah, if we build it, we should own it. And we've never really bickered about it. We've always had the kind of understanding that, you know, this is all of us as a group. And I feel like that's the cornerstone of that friendship is there's a certain level of trust and respect with each other that I guess was missing from other relationships.
That's amazing. Like, it's good to hear you say that because just to be completely honest, like, you know, Icy, obviously. Icy and I kind of took a page from the Freshest book in the terms of creating a crew and starting our own events, because we had a similar thing at Shine where we started a Saturday night in the back room though. And I won't say the promoters, but some guys came and, you know, took over the main room and kind of said either you're with us or you're not. But we were just young and dumb at that point, and we never really realized or understood the concept of ownership, like owning your night, doing your own bookings, you know, putting up your own money and all that stuff. So we took it. We're like, hey, we'll take, you know, the 150 and play for 5 hours. And it was dope. And we were super young, but it's good to hear hear that you had the same knowledge or the awe moment of, well, no, fuck that. Like, we need to do it on our own, right? Because that's key. It's key. Like, as DJs, owning your own events or even producing your own music, which we'll get into with you in a second here, it's super important as building your brand and just having ownership of shit, right?
Yeah, I think it's a real tough lesson, and this, unfortunately, in the music industry as a whole, like from this kind of like more communal, you know, local kind of stage to the full-on biggest stage, is that the music industry as a whole can be very, very exploitative, and it's constantly looking for people to take advantage of. And you really have to have your wits about you. I mean, industry rule number 4080 is like, should be industry rule number 1. you know, because it's just like constantly people are going to try and exploit you if you are talented or you have something they want and they don't have. They're going to just try and use you at the lowest price.
Yes, the best bang for for their buck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's dope. Okay, so we talk about the freshest, and you're talking about production and your love for production and not really wanting to be in clubs. Did that inspire the Live Evil duo that you guys have?
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, with the freshest, we ended up doing this three style opening set, and as the freshest, we've always worked together on mixes or things, and kind of like a bit of a more, I guess, we've kind of wanted to put a lot of energy into making sure it's like a step above just the standard. You know, we want to make it special, and whatever that way is, we try and work together to articulate that and then execute it. And as we did this three style thing, I think Mike just had a synth line around, and I mean, yeah, I play keys and other stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll try and figure out some bass lines or whatever, and then yeah, we were all trying to just like put acapellas over beats and instrumentals and do blends and stuff, and then we just added this element of like actual instruments, and it was just like, we should just do this. And that's really where it came from. And I think Mike and I were just the most at that time kind of most passionate about kind of working it out. And so we shot the freshest live set video, the first one, 2011 or 12, I can't remember exactly, but and it did really, really well on YouTube, and we were like, oh, we should just do more, and we just did a few more, and they all did really well. And then I moved to work in New Zealand at Serato, and then it just seemed a bit unfair on like the whole crew if it was called the freshest and it was really just Mike and I. So we just decided we should like really just separate that, so people know that when it's that they get that, and when it's the freshest they get this. It was more just like a kind of a branding exercise than anything, but it also allowed us to focus on what Live Evil should sound like, which was kind of the sinister club vibe, rap, R&B stuff, you know. So
was that a hard discussion to have with the team, to be like, hey, we built this up, but Mike and I are gonna kind of step sideways, or was everyone kind of like, do your own thing, makes sense?
I don't think we didn't really consult anyone, so we just did it. I don't know. We don't really have those kind of conversations that are you salty about this or anything.
Yeah.
It's convenient. And everyone has their own things. I mean, Rico has re-up. That's always been like a real important thing for him as an individual. I mean, he's always been very clear about like what he wants to do. And same with Seko. He's got Stick Up Kids. He's got, his own thing.
You guys are all doing your own thing and successful in what you're doing. Like, really, you know what I mean? So it's dope.
Yeah.
That's super dope. Okay. You have anything like coming out in the near, like you could talk about with Live Evil? Like anything down the pipeline in the next few months here?
Yeah, I mean, so we've just put out a single. So we put out a single with Guilty Simpson called Crime Rate. And I think we've been working on, like, we've got kind of like a stockpile of just instrumentals and beats and remixes and stuff, and we've just been kind of drip feeding them out on our Instagram. I think the end goal is just to have an album or an EP of these beats. Working with artists is very difficult, like especially local artists for some reason. I don't know if that's maybe on us or it's just I don't want to say that it's not anyone's fault necessarily. I think it's just the fact that a lot of, even just this whole conversation is like, there's a lot of understanding what people want to get at the end of something, and like working with an artist that's not maybe out of town that has a name. If you just give them money and you just say, I want this and we're going to pay you this, there's no expectation of what happens after. It's just like, yeah, well, you paid me and I gave you the thing, so you're done.
Yeah.
But with like I think when you're working with people locally, there may be a different relationship. We've worked obviously really well with J-Kin.
Yep.
And there are other artists. I've worked with Kendra Diaz. I've worked with Amalia. I've worked with a lot of local artists. But it's like, I think it's always really important when you go into making a song or any kind of piece of art with anybody, is to make sure that everyone's clear on what your end result is, who owns what, and the better, the sooner you can get over that stuff, the better. Because yeah, I think ultimately I'm saying all this just to say that it's easier just to put beats out.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Because I've kind of ran into that somewhat myself as well. Because I try to do a couple songs a year with, you know, local artists, just because one, I really genuinely fuck with Vancouver,
Same.
and two, it's just like, if the DJ builds the artist builds the DJ, it builds the club scene, it just builds everything on a global scale, and that's how I feel. But you definitely are correct. And I was having this conversation with Chemo actually a few months ago. So Chemo was saying that, I forget the name and don't quote me. There was a studio back in the day, either
Greenhouse.
Greenhouse, and he said everybody used to go there, collaborate. There's, you know, a few studios. You'd have Red One in one studio, Chemo in another studio, and then they'd swap and work on, you know, each other's mix. And then once that closed down, Chemo was saying that there was a huge divide in Vancouver, because then it gravitated from working into one studio to working at home.
Yeah.
Do you think that plays a part into kind of what you're talking about? It's a little more difficult to work with artists here, or?
Well, I think yes and no. I think people like yourself are really important to the city because you have a passion for the city, and it's really important to have people that bring people together.
Mhm.
And you know, I mean, we've worked with So Low-Key. Those guys get it. They're great.
Yeah, they're
you know?
dope.
And I think it's just that kind of understanding that we all need to work together to get ahead is
Mhm.
just such an important thing. But it's just kind of like, I think a lot of people are really afraid to take those first steps. I mean, and it's not exclusive to any genre. And I need
Yeah.
to really be clear about that.
Mhm.
People are, you know, if people say, oh, the hip hop scene or this or the house scene that, you know, it's like, no, man, this is like a problem for everybody and
Mhm.
every city, it seems.
Mhm.
But collaboration is so important for a community to grow together. And often they live around like a live venue of some sort. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like a studio or a place when something like that goes away, then people become fragmented and don't know where that place is. But there's lots of opportunity for that. You know, I think if you are putting on an event like people like yourself and people, we've tried to do with Freshest and Friends was always to try and showcase
Mhm.
other talents that we bumped into or thought were dope. And then, you know, even like what Nick Wiz and Mikey and the Loop Sessions crew do, where they do those beat ciphers, you know, things like that. All those things are so important because they kind of like, everyone's so insecure with their music, you know what I mean? Everyone's
Yeah.
really precious about their shit, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But we need to kind of let go a little bit and just be like, hey, like this is my shit. And
Yeah. This
like
is
it.
this is what it is. You take it
Yeah.
or leave it, right?
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I feel like, man, if people just were down to just do more shit together on the strength, more opportunities would come. You know,
Yeah.
more. You know, and I'm not saying that to sound exploitative myself. I just think that, man, I'll give away a beat for if I really like the artist. Yeah, I just want you to fucking do something with it. I just want you to
Yeah.
rap on it, because
Yeah.
then we'll have a song that we can put out. And you know, we're not gonna make $1 million off Spotify. That's not happening. So
Yeah.
let's just get it out,
Let's
man.
just put it out, see what happens.
Yeah, and the more people do that, the more the likelihood of people maybe making something. If it's not $1 million, if it's $500 or $1,000 off Spotify, then that's going to increase because people are going to be like, okay, Vancouver's got something going on. That doesn't that is an example of why Toronto has kind of built that industry, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's working a lot.
that's true. That's very true. So anyone from Vancouver that's gonna watch this, let's hit us up.
It's work. Yeah, let's put out some music.
Yeah. Okay, so it went from Kutcorners to the Freshest to Live Evil. Now let's talk about Serato. How did Serato come about, and how do you feel? Like, actually, let's start with that. How did Serato come about?
So Serato's a New Zealand company, so that was a huge,
Yeah,
huge bonus.
First check mark.
Yeah, and I grew up. So I grew up skateboarding in New Zealand, and a lot of the guys that I used to skateboard with, actually, well, not a lot, but a couple of the guys that I skateboard with still work at Serato, and so there was definitely a connection there. And on top of that, my cousin was at the time working at Serato, and he just posted on his Facebook page, "Hey, like, you know, I need a job, and you know, this is at this company." I was like, "What? Yeah, fuck yeah." I live in Canada, but you know, I would at that time I was just working at Long McQuaid, so I was like looking for a way to get, I don't know, and in the music industry, another job relative to my skill set that I
Yeah.
could kind of level up on, and this seemed like a perfect opportunity.
Nice.
And so yeah, I just went and decided at the time I should apply, and I didn't get the job at first, but and I couldn't. I ended up thinking I wouldn't be able to take it anyways because I was with my girl, and at that time it was just like, oh, this is going to be a real tough move, you know. It was like, but a second job opportunity came up, and at that time I wasn't with my girlfriend at the time, and I just was like, I had nothing to lose. I'll just go.
Yeah. So like, for people that don't know, what is it that you do at Serato?
Well, that's a complex question, but I'll
Fair.
try and compartmentalize it into some, you know, cheesy cliche terms. But
Okay.
it's artist relations and marketing, and primarily that means creating marketing content, selling the product without like selling it, like, hey, buy this kind of thing. And that is, you know, and then the artist relations part is really kind of like this really cool role, because a lot of it is based off my knowledge and understanding of DJ culture and technology, and helping specific people that are influential and important to the community and culture of DJing use our products. And it's a cool company because there's no, like, it's not a hard sell. We don't do any hard selling. We really just encourage and support the people that already used our stuff.
Yeah.
And basically help them stay using our stuff and showcase them using our stuff. So, you know, I guess one of the people that I work really closely with is A-Track, and at one point he didn't use Serato. Like, at one point he was actually off Serato, and I was a small part of getting them back onto Serato after years of being with Tractor, and I was very happy to be a part of that process. But that's an example of something that I've been part of, and I still work with him all the time.
Nice.
People like Jazzy Jeff a little bit here and there, and always looking out for like emerging people, and even that applies to even the city of Vancouver. You know, I'm always like looking and paying attention to who's doing stuff in Vancouver. People like, you know, yourself, Nick. There's lots of people that have, you know, started using our stuff or are continuing to use our stuff. So yeah,
that's one thing I gotta give you kudos for, man. Because I mean, I always looked up to you guys in the sense of like, I want to do what the freshest are doing, or you know what I mean. And when you got the role, you used to reach out every so often just to be like, hey, I have this coming up, or even a couple of weeks ago, like you shot me a text like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. You want to hop on a call? And like, being in that position that you're in, it's really important that you connect with DJs. And just from me to you, I'm going to say thank you. And I'm sure I'm talking for hundreds of other DJs in the world that your videos or your personal connections have helped them, because you definitely helped me a lot. So
thanks, man. Yeah. Well,
like, you have the personality for it, which is amazing.
Well, that's good to know. I'm doing my job effectively.
Serato, if you're listening, give him a raise.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just happy to have a job, to be honest. You know, like this time, you know.
And during this time, are you busier? Like, are you getting more inquiries from DJs in terms of like live streaming or tricks and stuff with Serato Studios? Has it increased?
Oh, 100%. I think there's a massive paradigm shift from obviously everyone playing in clubs and not having to even think about, you know, streaming or anything like that to stay visible, to all of a sudden all of their income and all of their, you know, visibility completely being shut down, like just disappearing.
Yeah.
For 2 months or more, you know, and we still don't know how long this is going to be. And live streaming is definitely the hottest topic right now, and rightly so. Like, it's one of the very few avenues that you can really even make any money on using, you know, your talent, and also to understand that it's taking people to wrap their head around how to do it, how to use things like Zoom, like this kind of stuff, and how to, you know, even if you don't make any money from live streaming, like staying visible is such an important part of what it is to be a DJ entertainer person in the community. And yeah, so my job is super empowering for, you know, helping people to get into live streaming. I've had to learn a lot myself But I'm all for it. You know, like I love that stuff. You know,
That's
I love
amazing, man.
seeing the change. I love being part of that change. You can't run away from it. You can't just bury your head in the sand. It's not helping, you know?
Just wait a few months in the sand, wait for it to go back.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows, right? Like, I think that's the biggest fear. I mean, there's lots of anxiety. Everyone's going to process this shit differently. And
Yeah.
I am not criticizing anyone if they don't want to live stream. There's
Yep.
no expectation.
Mhm.
And again, a lot of people may not be in a position to do that, whether it's
Mhm.
financially or technologically. But I think it's really, if you are, I want to make sure that everyone has the same, you know, knowledge. And the great thing is that, yeah, like some of the best things about live streaming are that the program that everyone uses, OBS, is free, completely free.
Yeah.
And if you have a phone, you just buy this app for your phone, which is like $15 or whatever,
Mhm.
and you can stream. Like, you got Wi-Fi, you got a computer, you're good. You know, like
Yeah.
you may need to figure out a way to get your audio in there. There's options for that. I mean, you can probably get up and running streaming for like under $200. So
Mhm.
if it's something that you do want to get into, I want to encourage people to do that because I mean, you can make money on Twitch, you can make money through donations, you
Mhm.
can find different ways to create stuff to kind of give yourself that creative outlet that you get from playing in a club or whatever.
Mhm. That's dope. That's smart words, wise words, my man.
Thanks.
Just based off what's going on, like this is just obvious, just opinion. You're not telling people what to do or anything. What do you think is going to happen? Like, how do you think this is going to change our industry? Because, like you said, a lot of people are being affected right now, and there's really no clear conclusion as to when we'll get back to rocking a party or even being able to hang out at the beach without having concern. So like, what's your take on this?
Well, I think first of all, we're really, really lucky to live in Canada, where we have like a kind of a functional government.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not throwing shade at American people. Like, I love American people. I love American culture. It's I go there a lot. I'm not
yep.
going to be able to go there for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like, I just love the fact that, you know, for the good things and bad things about our prime minister, at least we have people giving us money so we don't get evicted and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But yeah, I think also because of the actions that our government has taken, and if people follow the rules, hopefully when we do start to ease back in, we have so few cases comparatively to our neighbor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I think that there will be. I hope there will be, but I also believe there will be a return to clubs. I mean, as long as people are alive, they're going to want to go get drunk and try and pick up
yeah,
their sexual orientation or whatever,
yeah,
and do it to music. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to
yeah.
happen forever.
Yeah, for sure. There's only so much you can do on a live stream. You can't
Yeah.
you can't pick up whoever on a live stream.
not like you can in a club. No.
Yeah, a little different flex.
Yeah. And also hanging out with friends, man. I mean, you got to. That's never going to stop. I mean, but that
Yeah.
is the good side of streaming, is that you do have a community vibe in that chat box.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that's the biggest thing that I miss. It's just kind of the interaction with the homies, and like playing at the club, you'll always see at least one person you haven't seen in a while pull up. You know what I mean? And that
Totally.
interaction, just like how you been, what you been up to, blah blah blah. It's like that's what I miss the most. Like, it's obviously good to make money, obviously good to have socialization with random people, but just seeing those friends that you don't usually see throughout the week, I think that's the one thing I miss the most.
Yeah, man. No, and the community vibe. I mean, it definitely, like I was saying, whether it's whatever it is, like, it's really important to have that engagement. And there is definitely a certain thing about online activity that isn't quite the same, and will never be able to be matched for like having that kind of camaraderie with people in a group, in a whether it's some venue, whether it's a park, a beach, a club,
yeah,
restaurant, doesn't matter,
sure.
man.
Yeah, man, that's dope. Okay, let's switch it up here a little bit. We spoke about your past, your present. Where do you see yourself, or what do you want to be doing in, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty old now. I just want to pay off my mortgage,
Oh,
and I
fair
want to keep
enough.
making music.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, yeah, with my job, I'd really like to stay with, like, run the course with Serato. I don't really have any plans on switching up roles.
Mhm.
I just really want to help I'm very passionate about mentorship within the community, and I did this thing a few years ago called Rise and Shine, and it was one of the best things I've ever done in my life, like
Nice.
without question.
Mhm.
And I would really like to revisit that kind of thing for Vancouver. I see that, you know, people like yourself and there's a couple other people in the city that, you know, like shout out, you know, Nancy, the Chapel Sound crew.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, even, and like Mood Hut and the Pacific Rhythm House crew and
Mhm.
and these guys, like a lot of people in the city are really passionate about Vancouver and growing a community here and growing a scene, creative,
Mhm.
you know, vision of what the city it can become.
Mhm.
And I really think that a lot of it is about creating mentorship and having roles where people can go, oh yeah, that guy was successful, or that person was successful, and not leave. You know, like a lot of people
Yeah.
will leave and go to LA or Toronto or whatever, Europe,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But like the problem is that when you get that people leaving, you don't get that ability to have that kind of relation. Like I think this is really great that you're. I'm honored that you want to talk to me about this stuff, but it's also really awesome that I get to like talk to a fellow person from Vancouver and to hear that I had any influence on your career in any way. It's like that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
that's how I want to be known. I want to die like that. So
Mhm.
in the next 5 years, hopefully, you know, within my job and maybe extracurricularly learning a bit more about how to get proper grants and create resources for people to start their own labels, or, you know, even if it's a live stream like platform or something, I don't know, like just help people uh, feel like they can do more from the city. I get so hurt when people say, oh, you know, no fun city, or like Vancouver's hip hop scene is shit, or
I hate
scene.
hearing that shit,
Yeah.
man.
You gotta stop that. It's like, you know, it's not helping anybody, man.
It's like stabbing you in the rib, man.
Yeah, it's like, well, what are you doing about it? You're just gonna
Yeah,
complain
exactly.
about it?
That's literally always the follow-up question. It's like, well, what are you doing? Like, what have you done to contribute to growing it or anything? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and if that was a question that someone's like, well, what do I do then? If anyone has that question, I'd like to propose that make some music and put it out, or
Yeah.
make a mixtape and put it out, or like throw a party and book a couple of local homies and
100%.
whatever. Just do something. Don't
Yeah.
just criticize. Like that's not productive.
Yeah, man. I love it. Like the worst thing I hear is that Vancouver, well, the thing that bugs me the most is like Vancouver doesn't have, or Vancouver is not Toronto. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you're right. Vancouver isn't Toronto, but there's a lot of dope shit in Vancouver that Toronto doesn't have either.
Well,
You know
and
what I-
we have the same resources, man. Like, you know, we got the same government. We can get factor money. We can get
Yeah,
Creative
man.
BC money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not LA. It's not America where everyone's privatized and you have to fight through that.
Yeah.
To be honest, why not? Like, just take that. I mean, just fill out that form and try and get that demo grant or whatever, or that tour grant, and do your thing, man. Like, yeah, we got to change that attitude here.
I agree. Well, shit, man. At least we're on the same page with that.
Indeed.
Couple more questions here, and I'll let you get on with your evening. Are there any DJs or anybody in general that inspires you to keep going, or like that you want to strive for?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's tons. Like,
yeah.
I think the one thing that there's a bunch of different little things that I think about a lot, just in the fact that I have a job, like I have a job, and a lot of people just know me for Serato guy, you know, Serato Matt, like the guy from Serato, and that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, the DJs that inspire me, I think I see that there's a balance to be kind of found within that. And if you want to commit your whole like career to doing music just for like creative purposes, like I see the sacrifices people like A-Track have made, people like, you know, even my friend Vaughn U-Turn and in LA he's made. I think that you know, those people always inspire me because they've actually kind of sacrificed a lot of their own personal lives for that. And as inspiring as that has been, that's also really influenced me to know what like my limits are of that.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying that to, again, like when I said I don't really like clubs, it's not that I don't like clubs, it's just that the clubs, I don't like the other things that come along with clubs.
Yeah.
Clubs, if they served, you know, green tea, were open from like 5 p.m. to 10, and they play like the music that I like all the time, I'd be at a club all the time.
Yeah, I
That's
got
not
you.
realistic, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and you know, the nature of touring and these sorts of things, like, I don't really want any of that. So trying to figure out the people that inspire me are kind of like interesting people like Frank Dukes from you know, from Toronto, who's kind of created a whole market of just samples and sounds and kind of playing this background role. And I really respect people like that. Again, U-Turn, he's just found his own lane as like this producer guy who makes the craziest stuff, and he's got sound packs. He doesn't tour at all. He doesn't even perform at all. He just makes music. Those are the kind of people that kind of inspire me.
Nice.
So there's another lane that's not headlining, you know, raves and stuff.
That's dope, man. Okay.
Got to say one more person though. Kate Trinata. Kate Trinata, man.
Yeah, the GOAT.
I mean, I'm so patriotic about the fact that dude is Canadian. Like,
yeah,
you know, like, thank you. We have someone other than Drake. You know what I mean? Like, all respects to those guys, but Kate Trinata, he created a lane that is unashamedly like his sound. Like, he I think that was he's a young man who's like found his sound from a country that is always kind of like always looked upon as not as important as America or whatever. And man, everybody is wanting to sound like that guy right now. And
for sure.
That is the goal, you know?
Yeah. That's dope. Is that kind of what you're trying to emulate with Live Evil?
No, Live Evil's
not necessarily the sound, but just like creating your own vibe and feel to music, so that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I hear exactly what you mean. And even with my Kutcorners stuff, like, it's a bit all over the place, but I like the fact that he can make house music and he can make hip hop music and he can make R&B and shit. He can do like crazy African rhythms and stuff.
Yeah,
and it all makes sense as Kate Trinata. And I think that
that's dope.
Is like a lifelong goal. If you can find your thing and somehow do all the things that you love within it, you've won the game.
Is there anyone you haven't worked with, either with, you know, your Live Evil, Serato, or just personally as Matt, that you want to work with in the near future?
Oh man, yeah, there's tons of people, man. Pomo, like all these people that are making music. Toro Imwai is like my favorite artist. I think I always listen to his music, and I think having some kind of interaction with him would be really profound. You know, like he's just again another person who's kind of got this like really out there, like kind of unique sound. It's not one thing or the other, but it touches on all these things that I love. And he does it so effortlessly and unashamedly him. So yeah, probably him.
Nice, man. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. This was a really good convo, man. I appreciate it. I learned a lot. A lot of things I didn't know about you, I learned now. Okay, so let's wrap this interview up here, Matt, with a segment I call 3 for 3. So 3 things you can't live without, 3 things I need to go, and 3 things I need to come back. So I'll let you pick which 3 you want to start with.
Okay, let's do the 3 things I can't live without.
Okay.
I mean, this is not a complete list, though.
No, not at all. Not at all.
My computer, I mean, I just use it for everything. It's like I make all my music on it. I'm on it all the time. It's the shit. And I love the fact that I've got it. My friends, man. I mean, honestly, relationships, man. Like, so important. And then surfing, man. I love surfing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, got to do it for the rest of my life. It's just one of these things, like the most peaceful thing.
Do you go to Tofino a lot?
No, so when I do go surfing, I usually go surfing with my father in New Zealand.
Oh, nice. Okay.
If I'm in Los Angeles, I'll go surfing there with my friend Alvaro. But
nice.
It's just one of these constant things throughout my life, and it's like so important.
Amazing. That's another thing I didn't know about you. You like to surf. That's dope. Yeah. Okay. So how many boards do you own?
Oh, I just own one. My dad has a bunch, so I'm lucky.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So those are your 3 that you can't live without. What's the next one you want to tackle?
Was the 3 things that you need to disappear?
Yes.
It's all pretty negative stuff, but let's be real. Trump got to go.
Yeah, that's the one answer. Literally everybody I interviewed said the same thing. So check mark.
Yeah. COVID gotta go.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
My taxes gotta go.
Those are three solid ones. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
very practical.
And the last set of three. What's our last set? You said three things I need to go. Three things I need to come back.
Okay, I feel like this one's actually might take a little bit longer, but number one, the old Kanye. We need the old Kanye back.
That's a great one. I agree with that. That's a good one.
I had Summer on here, but I don't really think that's right. Functional MacBooks.
Okay. Elaborate.
Like with USB cables, you know what I mean? Like,
okay. Yeah.
I'm not
with
really
all the new extra adapter bullshit and all.
Yeah, Steve Jobs, come back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the better one. Steve
Fair.
Jobs, we need him back.
Yeah, simplify things again, please.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I guess the things that need to come back are really like, venues, man. We need venues.
Mm-hmm. That's dope. I agree. Okay, well, that's solid, man. Is there tell the people where to find you, how to get in touch with you, how to get your music, all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, I guess the first thing and most topical would be Twitch.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitch.
Yeah.
The Kutcorners is the username for that one, and then I'm also on YouTube as The Kutcorners, and I'm doing more performances on Twitch, and then more tutorials and educationals and just music stuff on YouTube, and then everything else is just Kutcorners on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. I guess those are the important ones.
Well, this is dope, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. I like your background. This is the coolest background I've had for sure.
I got a better one. I got to show you
Yeah, man, run it.
All right, 1 second. We'll load it up here. Yeah, shout out to my girlfriend for the virtual background here.
Nice.
This one is really fire. 1 second. Here it is. There we are. Just hanging out with my dogs.
There you go. Just chilling. I like it. That's super dope. Yeah. Are you doing any live streaming yourself in the sense of playing music, or are you just kind of doing tutorials and whatnot?
On Twitch, every Friday I do Friday at noon Pacific time. I do a 2-hour stream on Twitch. So it's kind of like the radio show that I did with Nick Wisdom called Polar Radio, but it's live, and it's it's kind of like funk, boogie, house, R&B, hip hop stuff. So
that's
stuff
dope,
that you'd expect.
Hell yeah. Well, Matt, thank you for hanging out, and you've been diced. Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks, man.
Take care, brother. Be safe, man. Cheers.